colonial status of Puerto Rico is not one that is repeating itself. It is one that has never gone away. The phrase that we often hear, that history repeats itself, is absolutely asinine. It doesn't exist, right? Historical problems do not repeat themselves. That, unlike what Dr. Lopez would say, they insist on being resolved. The colonial status of Puerto Rico insists on being resolved. This debilitating dependency that Puerto Rico has on the United States is informed by racist practices, which propagate the notion that Puerto Ricans are incapable of determining their own lives. The most recent manifestation of this thinking was the implementation of the last Organic Act, Promesa, adopted by the U.S. Congress in 2017. Promesa mandated an unelected, by the way, not approved by the Senate, which that lawsuit was just won by Rolando and Jessica, lawyers from Puerto Rico, was not approved by Senate, which means that they're an illegal entity, right? Mandated an unelected fiscal control board which has complete control over every aspect of life in Puerto Rico. This fiscal control board is put together by Congress. Each member of Congress can refer an individual, and then the orange guy in the White House gets to hand select who will be on that fiscal control board. And then that fiscal control board decides how the debt of Puerto Rico, which we don't know what that debt entails, right? We all go to restaurants and you get a receipt, you know exactly what you're paying for, right? Well, Puerto Ricans, working class Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico are paying a debt and they have no idea what they are paying. And the fiscal control board is controlling that process. This 500-year-old colonial problem can only be resolved through a process of decolonization, which enables the Puerto Rican people to exercise their fundamental human rights of self-determination, self-actualization, and self-reliance. After the debt crisis, the denial of our ability to even declare bankruptcy, the failure of FEMA, and their lack of aid after Hurricane Maria is criminal. We are not talking about civil cases. We are talking about human rights violations. We are talking about families without homes, peoples without jobs, students without school, teachers without pension. We are talking about a human rights violation. Puerto Rico is a 100 by 35 island, a hidden colony. Our job is to ensure that Puerto Rico no longer remains a hidden colony. There are millions of people who are dying after Hurricane Maria because they don't have insulin for their diabetes, because they don't have respirators, because they don't have medicine for their high rate heart problems, because hospitals and clinics have closed and the United States government has refused to provide aid.